Hey everybody, today on Political Access, I want to cover this story from a few days ago. And the NRCC, that's the National Republican Congressional Committee, they released their 37 targets for pickups in the House in 2024. Now, they only have a handful of seats in the majority right now, so 37 seats, that sounds like quite an ambitious goal, but let's see what we've got. So here's the article on Politico, and 35 of those 37 seats are going to be incumbents. 2 of those right now are open seats. Alyssa Slotkin, Katie Porter, they're stepping down to run for the U.S. Senate. I'm sure there's going to be other retirements. We're not even into the summer yet of 2023. There will be other retirements. So down here, the new chair of the NRCC is Richard Hudson. He's from North Carolina, and his statement is, Republicans are in the majority and on offense. We will grow our House majority by building strong campaigns around talented recruits in these districts who can communicate the dangers of the Democrats' extreme agenda. And he goes on to say, these House Democrats should be shaking in their boots. Now, that's pretty much a boilerplate kind of statement. Any of the chairs of these blatantly partisan organizations are going to say the same thing. They're not going to take any seats for granted. They're going on offense, and the other side is extreme. We get it, so let's read on. And we've got 19 Democrats in 2022. They won despite heavy spending by the NRCC against them, including Yadira Caraveo of Colorado, Gabriel Vasquez of New Mexico, and Pat Ryan of New York. Now, those were narrow races. I would expect anybody to go after any seat that they lost by under 1%, probably even the ones they lost by 2, maybe 3%. And one further piece of information here, on the other side, the DCCC, they recently released their own list of their most vulnerable members. And the NRCC is targeting all but one of those members, and they've added Josh Harder, Darren Soto, and Jeff Jackson, each of whom won by more than 12 points. Those seem like reach targets to me, but I'd like to think that they know a little bit more than I do. And the Democrats have not yet released their own target list. I don't know why they even release a list of targets anyway. It's going to be obvious, like I just said, any of these narrow races, those are the ones each side are going to target. It's not going to be much of a surprise. I don't think the donors are particularly going to be shocked to see most of the names on these lists. So anyway, what have we got on this list? Well, first we've got Mary Peltola in Alaska. Now that makes sense. The Republicans had a terrible showing there with the ranked choice voting with Sarah Palin and Nick Begich. Both Republicans did get more than 50% of the vote, but in the end, Peltola, she was able to pull out the win, and that was already after winning the special election just before those midterms. So that makes sense, and I think Peltola is vulnerable, given that it's Alaska, but she might be the ideal candidate to be able to hold that seat, unless the Republicans are really able to pull out some kind of magic. Next in California, we've got Josh Harder, the Katie Porter seat, and the Mike Levin seat. For me, I was surprised Katie Porter won by a narrow margin. I thought she would have won by over 5 points. It was only a few points. Now with her retiring, I suppose that seat is definitely going to be vulnerable. The other 2 seats, I don't think Republicans are going to have much of a chance unless something notable changes, like a scandal or some kind of mind-blowing candidate on the Republican side, combined with a decent red national environment. Next in Colorado's 8th, Yadira Caraveo. She won that newly created district. It was under 50% of the vote, so you never know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult now that Caraveo is the incumbent. Next in Connecticut's 5th, Jahana Hayes. She also won by under 1%, so there's no question Republicans are going to go after that district, but due to the gerrymandering and due to them not being able to pull it off in 2022, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than not to picture a Republican pickup there in Connecticut. Next, in Florida's 9th, Darren Soto is on this list. To me, that's too much of a stretch. Republicans had a phenomenal midterm in Florida, and Soto won by a narrower margin than expected, but it was still about 7 points. This is a district that's outside and south of Orlando. I would be surprised if Republicans were even able to get this under a 5-point margin. Next, in Illinois' 17th, Eric Sorensen. He just got elected in the midterm. That's a badly gerrymandered district. It has been trending to the right, but Sorensen won by 4 points. If Republicans were not able to pick it up in the midterms, I'm highly skeptical they're going to be able to do so in 24. Same with Frank Mervan in Indiana's 1st. That's the Northwest District. I don't see how Mervan's going to lose that. Sharice Davids in Kansas's 3rd. Again, based on the midterms, Republicans should probably give that seat up. Jared Golden, until he retires, I don't think he's going to be beatable. Then in Michigan, we've got Hillary Scholten. It's tough to imagine her losing. The Slotkin District, maybe because it's open, that's going to be their best chance. I still think that would tilt toward the Democrats. Dan Kildee in Michigan's 8th. I don't see that seat flipping either until Kildee retires. Then we've got Minnesota's 2nd with Angie Craig. She won by 5 points. It's not completely out of the question, but Craig is going to be tough to defeat. Now we come to North Carolina. This is going to be where the Republicans have their best chance. We've got Don Davis, Wiley Nickel, and Jeff Jackson. Now, since Republicans took control of the Supreme Court in North Carolina, here's news about how they're going to rehear the redistricting case. And if they do redraw the map, Republicans are almost certainly going to pick up at least 2 seats, and it certainly could be more than that. Now, I know it's highly politically charged with map making. I know in this state, Republicans want the Supreme Court to overrule themselves. Democrats do not. Same thing in Ohio. Republicans are likely to draw another map there. And now that the court has changed a little bit, they're more likely to get a gerrymandered map. And in a state like New York or Wisconsin, they would love to have their state Supreme Court overrule the previous ruling to have them draw another map. So this kind of thing never ends. It's unsatisfying to see a court overrule itself from just a year or two ago. So I don't really want to comment on that. But as far as the political implications, North Carolina is the best bet for Republicans to make some gains. And these 3 incumbents, Davis, Nickel, and Jackson, they're going to be in the crosshairs, and I would not be surprised if all 3 of them ended up losing in 24. Next, Chris Pappas in New Hampshire's first. That's another one. I don't see him losing unless it's a massive red wave and Republicans have a decent candidate. Otherwise, it's going to be a waiting game for Pappas to retire. New Mexico's second, Gabe Vasquez. He won by about a half a point in a terribly gerrymandered map against the Republicans in New Mexico. There's no question Republicans are going to target this district. It's possible they flip it with the right candidate, but Vasquez, he's going to start with the advantage. Then we come to the Nevada districts. We've got Dina Titus, Susie Lee, and Steve Horsford. That's another gerrymandered map designed to protect those 3 Democrats. It paid off in 22, and it's going to be tough to see a better result with the Republicans in 24. Maybe by the end of the decade, there's different trends, and Republicans are able to pick up one of those districts. But right now, it looks like it's going to stay a 3-1 map, unless everything aligns for the Republicans. In New York, Republicans are going to be on defense, but they have one target here on offense. That's Pat Ryan in the 18th. He won by about 1.5 points. And then we've got Greg Landsman in Ohio. That's the district that covers Cincinnati. He won by about a 5-point margin. And then we've got the Marcy Kaptur district, the 9th, and the Amelia Sykes district, the 13th. Again, like with North Carolina, if Republicans are going to redraw this map, we'll reevaluate then. If they don't, then it's going to be all about the candidates. Next in Oregon, Val Hoyle and Andrea Salinas. I don't think they're going to do anything in the 4th with Val Hoyle, but in that 6th district, that's the newly created district. Salinas did win by a narrow margin of about 2.5 points, so there's an outside chance Republicans could flip that, or at least be competitive in that district. Then we've got Pennsylvania, the 7th with Susan Wild, the 8th with Matt Cartwright, and the 17th with Chris DeLuzio. The DeLuzio district, I think, is off the table. The Wild and the Cartwright districts, they won narrowly, only a couple of points, so those are some legitimate possibilities in the right circumstance for Republicans to make some gains. Now I've got Rhode Island 2nd with Seth Magaziner. I thought Republicans had a decent shot in the midterms. They did not flip that seat. It was competitive, but Alan Fung, he was a moderate Republican. He didn't get it done. Plus, there was an open seat. Now, I don't think Republicans are going to have much of a chance for that Rhode Island district. Next, in Texas, there's only one here. That's the 34th with Vicente Gonzalez. Myra Flores was redistricted into that district. It was much bluer. She lost, and it was by high single digits. I don't think Republicans are going to have too much of a chance in that district unless the trends really shift toward the right. I think Gonzalez will hold on. I'm surprised Henry Cuellar is not on this district. That's a much more competitive district, but I guess Republicans have given up on that one. Next in Virginia's 7th, Abigail Spanberger. Republicans really want that seat. Spanberger won by around 5 points last time. It's another one where it's going to be tough to imagine Republicans doing well enough to be able to flip it. In Washington's 3rd, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. She beat Joe Kent. That was a little bit of a surprise for me. The district is red enough where I would think most Republicans would be able to hold it. So to me, this is a reasonable target for Republicans to be able to pursue. Now, there's also Kim Schreier here in the 8th, but Schreier won by more than 5 points. She's an established incumbent. I don't think she's going anywhere, but maybe that's just me. So those are all the targets for the Republicans. We can do one more thing again on Wikipedia. These are the crossover seats where they voted for one candidate in the 2020 presidential election, but a different candidate in the 2022 midterms. And there's 5 of them that voted for Trump in 2020 that elected a Democrat in the midterms. And there's 18 of them that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 that elected a Republican in 2022. So there's no question that all of these districts are going to be tempting for the other side to go after in 24. Some of them are surprising, like California's 22nd that voted 13 points for Biden, but did elect David Valadao. And on the other side, in Alaska, 10.1 for Trump, but went for Mary Pontola in the midterms. So it's true that just because a district voted for one candidate for president by over 5 points, sometimes even over 10, it doesn't mean that they're not willing to cross over and support the other party in a different election. So we'll see what happens, but there's some interesting targets on here. I do think that list of 37 that the Republicans had, way too overly ambitious, at least as of now. I think half of those are going to be too far out of reach, but this is just what I think. Let me know, what do you think about any of these targets for the Republicans? Where should they go on offense? Where should they play defense? Which seats have the most potential to flip? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.